Omnichannel. Crossovers between land-based and online gaming.
Hello. Welcome to SiGMA Europe Virtual Expo 2020. Really great to be here with you all. This panel is discussing a subject that has long fascinated me, thought about it over the years all the time. This is the crossover between land-based and online gaming. At the outset, we think it's a pretty similar product, but there are big differences, and it's about time these differences were diminished and we got these two products together. So, my name's Tim CULLIMORE, and I'll be here for the next 20 minutes, and we have two gentlemen who've got long and distinguished careers in the gaming industry, both in land-based and also electronic gaming. We've got Kurt Cartier. He's headed up supply companies in Asia, Vegas, Europe, and also in operating casinos. And we've got Nick Chapman, who's come from South Africa through Europe and now is in the UK in what is a very, very tough market. So you've got to know what you're doing in that market. So I guess the first question is, how is land-based gaming kind of looking at online gaming, and is there some interest from land-based to grab what online are doing? What do you think, Kurt?
I think, well, the interest has definitely been reawakened. I think it went a little bit dead for a while, but obviously with COVID, everybody's looking for new ways to gain some revenues. I think there was initial interest when online started, but the few people that ventured in it, the revenue expectations weren't always met. They found it was a very different segment of gaming that required different expertise, different IT backgrounds or knowledge, and the revenues just weren't there because they didn't have the sort of marketing prowess to compete with the actual online gaming companies that are dominating that market.
And Nick, how do you think, knowing as you do so much about live table gaming, the crossover onto live gaming online, how do you think that's come across?
Well, I think it's an interesting one because certainly some of the casino groups varied in their approach. I mean, certainly in the UK, live gaming has been very popular. Some of the card games, some of the roulette games being spread out over 20, 40 terminals. There's been an obvious link, certainly here. When you look at in South Africa, for example, one or two of the companies were very quick to try and get into it. Sun International, I think, were the first. And in fact, Caesars, which later went into Empress Casino, they've just launched their product 3 weeks ago. So they're quite late to the market, but it's taken off very well. So there's still opportunities for those traditional land-based companies to get involved. But it is getting late in the day.
And how important is the jurisdictions and the local laws and regulations, Kurt, to the possibility to have some crossover?
Well, obviously that's been one of the main stumbling blocks in Europe. We live in the EU, an economic bloc without borders, but the borders are very real when it comes to online casinos. So you could have an example if you were, if you're a Slovenian border casino and most of your clientele is from the Venice area, the only way that you can attract them to an online casino is by having an Italian licensed online casino. And that's the same, in other jurisdictions as well.
And I guess differences between some jurisdictions, I think Belgium and Switzerland insist that you have a land-based casino license before you can go into a partnership or operate.
That actually helps the crossover. So if you look at Napoleon Games and Circus in Belgium, they do a pretty good job, and it's because it's kind of been forced. that you need to have that land-based license there. Even then, I would not be sure how much of their clientele is actually crossover clientele.
Even with poker and things like that?
Poker probably sees one of the highest crossovers, followed by other table games. Slots is, I think, the one that sees the least crossover. And one of the reasons for that would be that you simply won't find all the same game.
Yes. Also, if you look at the slots content, certainly the variety online, they're able to do a lot more. There was a lot of talk about server-based gaming for land-based casinos that never really took off, and I think to a certain extent with the slots content, land-based got stuck in what the content providers offered them, without really exploring all the other avenues available to them. On the table side as well, it would have been a lot easier to start off with broadcasting live pits, but I think certainly they were late in the day, and in some respects, even on the table games, which are the traditional forte of land-based, they in some respects are ahead of the land-based guys in the table games segment.
And Nick, how do you think? I know I had some discussions with guys who were doing live studios within casinos, and there was discussion about whether other players who were in the camera shot would be concerned about being seen across the internet.
Yes, well, like the UK demonstrated, you don't necessarily have to have the live casino doesn't have to show the entire casino. Offerings on roulette wheels, on card tables, quite easily offered without, panning around the casino, so to speak. Whilst at the same time offering a bit of variation in terms of the games they offer, and in terms of the ambience and the input. Certainly the different types of pokers, the blackjack, the roulettes. There's so much that some of the larger properties can offer if they're given an online portal to do it.
And Kurt, talking about server-based gaming within the casino, that'd seem like a pretty good fit, wouldn't it? If you could go from server-based and then you could be playing on the same machine online or in the casino, it wouldn't make any difference.
It sounds perfect. The reality has been that the online content, where it has been tried by server-based solutions, it's always been inferior to the hardcore land-based content. It's done well in jurisdictions when there's been no other offering in a land-based environment, but it hasn't really worked anywhere else. And I think the slot games of 20 years ago would be fine, but we're still relying on a physical dimension on slot floors today to attract the player, to work out the bonuses. There's still a different factor that is difficult to emulate online. And
return to player?
Once again, there as well, that could actually be more beneficial online for lots of players. But then again, they may not have the same loyalty programs offered to them then. So it's what you get in land-based is an overall experience which is very different, I feel, than online. And I'm not saying online is bad. I think online is doing great. But in the same way that a lot of the people that I know, while we originally worried about online encroaching on the land-based space, over time there's been some instances where that's true, but by and large it's just increased the player base.
And how do you think, Nick, that the land-based, we've all been casino managers, we all know how it works. What can we learn from the online operations that we've seen now?
Well, I think the online, certainly they got the CRM and their customer journey right. and that's possibly from not being able to interact with their customers as well at the coalface, if you like, as land-based have been. Land-based possibly also got a little bit lackadaisical, potentially, about the data that was provided for their customers. And that's where possibly online stole a march on them. And again, the traditional way of doing things maybe led traditional casinos to not actively question the house edge and the return to players as they should do. Yes, they've got water and lights and electricity bills to pay, but I think value for money is where the entertainment and value for money is going to be where the battle for the heart and soul of the customer is won and lost here. I know with some of the card games with side bets holding 20%, you just shortens the customer experience, and certainly with some of the slot machines holding a little bit too much, I think online are providing a better value for your dollar at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And if we think about the electronic gaming within the casinos and how we could have perhaps a joint wallet between online and land-based, so those credits are there, you can play them wherever you want. I can use my supermarket points wherever I want to use them. Kurt, what do you think?
I think that's definitely something that we're going to have to work towards in the future. I think one of the challenges is going to be the obstacles in getting there. And I totally agree with Nicholas' point on, the land-based side has a lot to learn from online about the value of that player and that player behavior. But once you start mixing up a wallet, you can have one wallet, but you're going to have separate pieces to the wallet. Because I think regulators may start looking at things very differently when you can combine the two segments. How do you keep on convincing a regulator that you got to tax online separately from land-based if you're playing out of the same wallet on the same content from the same database? I think that could get tricky.
Yeah. I think, what do you think, Nick, about the online's kind of woken the whole industry up? I mean, they've got money wheels that casinos were throwing in the garbage can because nobody wanted to play, and now this is some of the biggest revenue earners for the online operators.
Yeah, so some of the traditional, let's say the tables progressives and the tables tournaments, in some respects they haven't evolved from the wheels and the little progressives they used to have, but the reason is that they worked. I think where the online guys have got it right in terms of their content is things are bright and shiny and new, whereas the traditional land-based casinos didn't reinvest in those concepts. They didn't reinvest with new technology and making the things that worked modern. And I think that's where they maybe got left behind a little bit. And ironically, that may be where the current challenges are going to make them sit back and improve their game. No company now that isn't really competitive is going to stay in the game. A lot of them are under pressure.
So if we're opening a new casino tomorrow, we take all the best aspects of all the online and just transfer those across to a land-based. Kurt?
I wish it was that simple. I tend to look, so we've been talking the whole time about casinos and how that crossover has happened. I think we can look at what suppliers have done. And suppliers have obviously started crossing over more. And it's almost one directional in that land-based suppliers have made acquisitions in the online space and in the social gaming space. A very good indication to me is that they're running them as completely separate businesses.
Yes.
There's
Well,
a
I
lot
think
that they can benefit from. They can benefit from the land-based games and port them across. And they're sorting out the technology to make that all happen quicker and with less R&D dollars. But they're different businesses.
well, thanks, guys. That was really, really interesting. Last words. We've got a few seconds. Nick?
Yeah, I was just going to bring up the subject of the millennials. You know, we haven't spoken about maybe one of the challenges that online face, and esports, where the millennials are coming with their predilection for online and for all things that glitter, and they're bringing esports and so on with them, and that argument is still to be had between land-based and online casinos.
Yeah, I think that's a discussion for another day. Esports is a completely different subject. Happy to talk to you about it on another day, but I think our time is up. Really great talking to you guys, and well done to SiGMA for getting all this together, and thanks very much.